Personally, it's the easiest setup, and we'll get into the objections, the advantages and disadvantages. But right now, I want to give you the clear structure of how we want to do this. We have our dynamic creative testing, which I would love to have a discussion about whether we like it or we don't like it, or what we like to call our isolated asset testing. Either or, you are going to eventually get to the isolated asset testing, which for us is stage 2 of our graduation phase before we get right into scale. This talk isn't about scaling. I wish it was, but I'll get you guys on the next one so if you want to hear that. So why do we like dynamic creative testing? So personally, it's the easiest setup, and we'll get into the objections, the advantages and disadvantages. But right now, I want to give you the clear structure of how we want to do this. It's going to be a conversion-specific campaign. It's going to be an automatic bid, so we can guarantee that that ad set is spending. We're going to choose all placements broad. We do not want to have an influence from an interest. We do not want to have an influence of a specific audience. We want broad. We want the creative to do the talking for us. Now, I'm going to do a caveat real quick. If you believe your performance is so far down, you can opt to go to your best performing audience, and you can opt to go for your best performing interest. However, whether the audience is interest or a lookalike, you can definitely go that route. But we really want to see if we can prove viability of new assets broad. That way we can understand it. We can have a nice peace of mind of once it works here, we know exactly where we're going to take it to next, right into our audience testing, right into a potential scaling campaign. Each variation, dynamic creative tests, you can have up to like 5 to 10 and depending on where you're going to put it. But each variation that you are going to put into that, you need to understand that you have to add between $50 to $100 to make sure spend can happen there, because we really want it to be running for about 3 days. The way we're structuring this is making sure we have 2 variations of assets. We need a 1x1 and a 4x5 to make sure that we're getting delivery in every part of Facebook and Instagram. Now, I did not say stories. We do not want stories to be involved in this. Stories is a different approach, and we look at it in a completely different way. Now, it can be the same type of creative, but we're not going to include it in our feed testing. I don't know about you. We haven't had as much success in stories as much as we've had in the feeds. So we kind of develop creative specifically for stories. Beside the point. Here's the advantages and disadvantages of dynamic creative testing. First one, we're going to leverage Facebook's algorithm. We believe in it. We love it. We use it almost exclusively across some brands. It's at least in 1 or 2 campaigns in every one of the brands that we're part of. Why? It's consistently the easiest and quickest thing we can get up and running. And it has new combinations daily. It can have new combinations that we weren't able to create on our own manual way. Well, some downsides is can't rotate pages. So if you have a winning creative that's running to a collection, you're going to have to stay with running to the collection. You can't really go winning unless you separate it by ad set. You're going to have to have that asset being tested towards the same landing page. Oftentimes, brands want to run to the homepage, collection, and product page. Can't be doing it in the same ad set and doing separate ad sets. But it does take budget away from this initial test, just to remember. And you can extract post ID. It's October right now. I haven't found a way to get the post ID. You used to be able to do this, but you can't do it anymore from what I understand. If I'm completely wrong, if you found a way to do it, hook me up. I need it. My team needs it. Please help me out. And lastly, you don't get any carts. You can't really understand what combination is there. You can get what happens at the actual ad set level, but you're not going to get your click to cart ratio. You're not going to get any cart costs, initiate checkouts, or purchase costs. You're just going to understand some combination within this ad set is working, and you're eventually going to have to graduate as well. Or we can run with the second launch testing phase, which is our isolated asset testing. Very straightforward. It's going to be an ABO, conversions as well. All placements broad, nothing different, just like the DCT. About $500 to $300 in budget is what we really want. Now, that might be a little bit much on the initial test. That's okay. We really wanted to measure at least 3x AOV, what you're trying to accomplish. That's what we use, 3x AOV, where we want to put our budgets. AOV, sorry if I go too quick on that, is average order value. How much is a consumer buying in that first purchase? For the ad, very similar to the last one, we're going to do a 1x1 and a 4x5, again, to make sure that it is running inside every placement that Facebook and Instagram have to offer us. Except, you guessed it, stories. Advantages and disadvantages real quick. Advantages, we get post IDs. Amazing. If it works, you can continue to scale it, put it into a different campaign. You get cart metrics, another amazing thing. It's what we want. We want to learn what are the correlations, what's happening, why is this working. Some disadvantages, there's a potential for overspend. If it's not the right combination, you might spend more money than you anticipated, put some stop loss rules in there, or put a cap on overall budget. It is a little bit more time consuming to set up because you do have to, we don't want you duplicating it out because we want to make sure that it's a new build for every asset. And you're not really carrying post IDs here because you're testing individual assets. So you're not really in that phase of scaling just yet. So we'll take a little bit more time to build. And you don't really get any new combinations like you do with the dynamic creative test, where it does get you some different variations on a day-to-day basis. So overall, we have two choices. We have two choices. We have our isolated test, and we have our dynamic test. For us on the dynamic test, why we like it, why we'll always use it, is it's going to give us a total amount spent gross, and you get a little bit on the EPC. You will not get the finite learnings that we want when I show you the dashboard that I think you guys are going to really, really like, but it gives you an easy way to kind of get things up and running. And at that point, you can put it into its own graduation phase, similar like this. So we're going to launch that campaign. Minimum, we want 3 days running before we really touch anything. Now, if you're burning cash and lighting it on fire, definitely turn that off. But if you have 3 days, we want to see the directional data. Get that winning combination. And for us, we're going to put it right into an isolated asset test because we found something that was working. If nothing is working within that combination, you're going to hit a hard pause to go rethink what happened and what went wrong. So then if we were to go into our isolated test, the two benefits that we really, really love, we get post IDs. So if things do work, we can duplicate it out and start to scale with existing posts. And you get total funnel reporting. You're going to get every little bit of information that you can imagine that you wanted for why this is working and how it's working. So what that progression could potentially look like for you is you have an isolated test. You want that bad boy running again for at least 3 days. Don't touch it. Choose the days you want to launch it with. For us, we have 2 different days we launch, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. During that time, we don't like to launch into the weekend, which I'm not against it. Every brand's a little bit different, but we do our best to kind of get our tests up and running on Monday through Wednesday, so that we do get a little bit of normal working days deliverability. Winning combinations, keep that bad boy on. Any losing combinations, hard pause, all good.